Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The night sky hung low over the sprawling city of Calderon, pinpricked with the pale light of stars and ruled by an ominous, glowing full moon. It was no ordinary full moon. This one was steeped in history and marked on ancient calendars, whispered about in hidden chambers where shadows danced and secrets festered. Tonight's blood moon was a harbinger, a celestial signal that stirred the city's darker undercurrents. And somewhere in the tangled alleys and forgotten basements, a clandestine group waited, waiting to mark crimes that only the moon could reveal. The blood moon ledger did not belong to any government agency or police precinct. It was maintained by a secret society known only as the Lunar, a fraternity of enigmatic individuals committed to monitoring the city's most ruthless acts, murders, betrayals, and the underworld's deepest sins, timed according to the lunar cycle. On nights of crescent, they compiled lists of petty crimes and whispers of misdeeds. During the gibbous phases, their vigilance intensified, as the city's peace frayed. But tonight, with the red orb blazing above, all focus was dedicated to the blood-soaked chronicles that the moon seemed to pull into stark relief. Evelyn Merrick adjusted the collar of her trench coat against the sharp January chill, her breath puffing like steam as she made her way through the labyrinthine backstreets of Calderon's historic district. She was one of the few women permitted into the Lunary's inner sanctum, a prodigy who blended the sciences of forensic analysis with an almost supernatural intuition. As she slipped through the discreet iron gate of an abandoned observatory perched on a hill, Evelyn glanced upward at the glowing red orb of the moon, its eerie hue casting distorted shadows across the cracked glass domes. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old parchment. Whispering voices floated from the chamber below, where the elders gathered for what was known as the Moon's Reckoning, a ritualistic assembly held only on the night of the full blood moon. Evelyn descended the narrow iron staircase, each step creaking under her careful tread. The chamber was circular, its high walls lined with shelves crammed with leather-bound tomes, faded lunar charts, and jars containing strange artifacts. Human hair, ash, dried flowers, each catalogued meticulously. At the center, beneath a gigantic lunar globe rotating silently on an axis, sat a long oak table scarred with time. Encircling it were the society's elders, men and women whose faces bore the marks of countless nights spent peeling back the city's veiled truths. Master Gaius Dominguez presided, his grizzled features illuminated by flickering candlelight, eyes sharp as obsidian. "Welcome, Evelyn," Gaius intoned, voice low and deliberate. "The blood moon has risen. As the old legends say, its light awakens the sins waiting beneath Calderon's surface. Tonight, we add to the blood moon ledger." Evelyn nodded, pulling a leather-bound book from beneath her coat. The ledger was old, centuries old by some accounts, with pages stitched from crimson-dyed vellum. It was said to possess a connection to the lunar rhythms, each foul act etched into its pages somehow bonded to the moon's phases. "The city's pulse quickens," she said, flipping to a blank page marked with the date. "This full moon brought 3 violent deaths in the East District. 1 strangulation, 1 shooting, and a burned house with no survivors." An elderly woman with haunting silver hair, known only as Madame Celine, raised a creased hand. "The strangulation echoes a pattern we have seen before. Victims left in shadows at dawn. The killer strikes precisely when the moon crosses the zenith. A predator who venerates the lunar apex." "And the shooting?" Gaius asked. "Random violence, seemingly," Evelyn replied. "But my analysis suggests a coded message. The caliber of the bullet and the trajectory imply a professional, someone wanting to be heard without direct confrontation." Gaius's eyes narrowed. More than mere coincidence, this trifecta of ruin aligns perfectly with the ancient lunar blessing and curse we guard against. Tonight, The city's darkness deepens. We must decipher the message before the dawn. The meeting broke up shortly afterward, the elders dispersing into the shadows, leaving Evelyn alone with the ledger. She traced a finger over the inky signatures and cryptic symbols that decorated the pages. What the secrets they held, she could not yet fully unravel. Outside, the blood moon's light painted the city in crimson. Somewhere nearby, a scream pierced the night, echoing off brick and stone. Evelyn's pulse quickened. Hours later, she found herself standing before a ghastly scene in the burned-out shell of an old Victorian home. Charred remains lay strewn amidst the rubble. A faint lunar glow filtered through the smoky sky, revealing a strange symbol burnt into the hearthstone, a circle with a crescent moon pierced by 3 dots. Evelyn's breath caught. That symbol was known only to the Lunary and a secretive cult rumored to work against them, the Nocturnals. Phantom whispers of their existence had circulated for centuries, a shadow network of anarchy and bloodshed, dedicated to disrupting the balance maintained by the Lunary. Were they behind this carnage? Was this symbol a signature marking a new war? She pulled out her phone and sent a message to the Society's cryptologist, Rowan Tully, a wiry man with a knack for decoding the cryptic and occult. Minutes later, Rowan arrived in a beat-up car, eyes wide with concern. He slid open the door and stepped into the smoke-filled ruin, scanning the symbol quickly. "This is worse than I thought," he muttered. "The Nocturnals have resurfaced. And they've evolved. This symbol's encoded with a cipher we haven't seen before. We've been tracking their attacks based on lunar dates, but this is the first time they've left such a bold, public mark." Evelyn's mind raced. If the Nocturnals had returned, the city faced an unseen war, unfolding under the delicate phases of the moon. The Lunary's ledger was their only defense, but could it keep pace with such brazen terror? "Rowan, what does the cipher say?" she demanded. He unrolled a greasy notebook and pulled out a laptop, quickly scanning the image. "It references the Crimson Reckoning. They're calling this night the beginning of a purge cycle, launching a series of killings timed exactly to moon phases, designed to undermine our watch." "The ledger is our only counter," Evelyn whispered. "We need to predict their next move." Back at the observatory, illuminated by the ghostly red moonlight, Evelyn and Rowan plunged into research. They cross-referenced the latest crimes against historical burnings, murders, abductions, all etched into the Blood Moon ledger over centuries. A chilling pattern emerged, revealing the exact nights, marked by lunar quarters, when the Nocturnals would strike again. "The next target will be during the waning crescent," Rowan said, fingers trembling over the keyboard. "But the victims? They are members of the city council. Public figures. The Nocturnals intend to disrupt the power structure." Evelyn's heart pounded. There was no time for error. The people who kept Calderon's fragile order could fall victim to the Shadow War. Days passed in tense preparation. The city council convened in a fortified building, unaware of the deadly celestial web drawing tied around them. Evelyn infiltrated the building under the disguise of an aide, while Rowan watched security feeds from their hidden base. The Watchers, as they were sometimes called, members of the Lunary sworn to protect the balance, were stationed discreetly throughout the council chambers. As the waning crescent ascended, the moonlight dimming, Evelyn felt the oppressive weight of impending violence. Then, the silence shattered. An explosion ripped through the east wing, hurling debris and screams into the air. Smoke curled upward, veiling the moon's faint glow as people scrambled for safety. Through the chaos, Evelyn glimpsed figures cloaked in black, the Nocturnals. They moved with lethal precision, targeting council members with blade and gunfire, their actions timed exactly with the final moments of the lunar phase. Evelyn moved swiftly, dodging falling beams and shattered glass, pushing injured civilians to safety while immobilizing one of the attackers. When she tore off the assailant's mask, she saw strikingly familiar eyes, intense, cold, and filled with the desperation of conviction. "Why?" Evelyn demanded, grabbing the man's collar as others fought around them. He smiled bitterly. "Balance must be broken to find true freedom. The lunary watch with blind eyes, burying truth beneath superstition. We are the reckoning." With a surge of adrenaline, the battle turned grim. The Watchers fanned out, capturing or chasing off the Nocturnals. The council building was saved, but at grave cost. 3 council members lay dead, dozens injured. The Ledger's warnings had come too late. Back at the observatory, the lunary convened once more beneath the waning moon. Gaius broke the stillness. "Tonight, we witnessed not just violence, but defiance against the natural order we bind to the lunar cycle. The Nocturnals reject our purpose, believing chaos will cleanse the city." Evelyn's voice was steady but resolute. "Then we must find their leader. The one orchestrating this cycle of terror. If we are to protect Calderon, the Ledger must evolve. It must not only record crimes but predict and prevent them." Madame Celine frowned. "And the blood moon remains high, sister. Its prophecy is far from over." The city outside lay wounded but breathing. And beneath the ever-watchful blood moon, a silent oath was formed. Evelyn stared at the ledger, now heavy with fresh ink, the weight of centuries in its pages. Somewhere in the city's darkness, the Nocturnals plotted their next move, their own lunar clock ticking relentlessly. And the war for the soul of Calderon would continue, its rhythms bound to the eternal dance of the moon. For more stories, like and subscribe.